Saudi Arabia has a football league. You may have heard about this. It has been known as the Saudi Pro League since 2008, at a time when the league's foreign players included the likes of Boris Kabi, Kojo Afuno, and Maketi Diop. No, me neither. But it was in 2023 that Saudi Arabia's top flight received global attention. The kingdom's public investment fund acquired controlling 75% stakes in each of the country's four biggest clubs, and the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo.
The Saudi Pro League explosion in 2023 completely changed the global football transfer landscape. When the Public Investment Fund took major control of the country's biggest clubs and superstars like Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, and Karim Benzema arrived, the message was clear. Saudi football wasn't just participating in the market anymore. It was trying to reshape it.
Neymar and Karim Benzema all headed desert side for a fresh challenge and in pursuit of developing the game around the world. They could just as easily.
And to be fair, some of these moves have worked brilliantly. Ronaldo continues to score at an incredible rate. Several lesser-known players have boosted their careers, and the league's global visibility is higher than ever before. From a business and branding perspective, Saudi Arabia achieved exactly what it wanted: global attention.
Gone to Iraq or Sudan, but purely coincidentally, it happened to be Saudi Arabia. Some of the Saudi Pro League's imports have had an excellent time in the searing West.
But football reality is always more complicated than the headlines. When huge salaries are offered across the board, not every signing is going to deliver. We've already seen multiple examples of players who struggled to perform, lost momentum in their careers, or quickly moved away again. That inconsistency raises an important question. Is the Saudi Pro League building long-term sporting quality, or simply accelerating short-term transfer hype?
Hates. Uncapped Brazilian Talisca scored 62 goals in 78 league games for Al Nassr from attacking midfield, before departing for Fenerbahce.
Take Alan Saint-Maximin as a perfect example. At Newcastle, he was one of the most exciting dribblers in the Premier League. Unpredictable, entertaining, and capable of changing games on his own. Yet his move to Saudi Arabia hasn't had the impact many expected, highlighting the broader reality that star power alone doesn't guarantee success in a rapidly evolving league structure. The Saudi Pro League
Former Tottenham and Burnley flop George Kevin Nkudu lashed in 20.
Project is still in its early stages, and its future will depend not just on attracting big names, but on building stability, competitive balance, and real footballing development. Because in the long run, attention brings viewers, but performance keeps them.
Actually topped by any of those three, as Saudi international Firas Al-Bakaran claimed that title despite playing fewer games than all of them. Saint-Maximin.
Alan Saint-Maximin's journey perfectly shows how unpredictable the Saudi Pro League experiment can be for individual players. When he first arrived, expectations were huge. Fans imagined his explosive dribbling, creativity, and flair lighting up the league alongside some of the biggest attacking names in world football. Instead, his time there lasted just a single season, followed by an underwhelming loan spell in Turkey and eventually a permanent move to Club America.
His headband, worse, as he was left out of the club's Europa League squad, and his own manager, Jose Mourinho, described him as being overweight and requiring an elevation.
This doesn't necessarily mean Saint-Maximin suddenly became a poor player. It highlights something more important. Moving to a new league, new culture, and completely different tactical environment doesn't guarantee instant success, even for highly talented footballers. The Saudi Pro League has attracted global attention, but the footballing structure is still evolving, and that transition period can make consistency difficult for many players.
To get up the stairs. Yeah, it's not exactly the vote of confidence that you want from your gaffer. In August, Al Ali sold Saint-Maximin permanently for.
The same pattern can be seen with defenders like Luis Felipe. A player who once had a strong reputation in Serie A and La Liga moved to Saudi Arabia with significant expectations. Yet injuries, managerial changes, and squad restructuring quickly pushed him out of the project. Within a short time, he went from a high-profile international defender to struggling for stability across multiple clubs in Europe again.
Luis Felipe. Just as an aside, by the way, And you know how much I hate going off on tangents, but it really is Scareia, Nesta, Cannavaro.
These stories underline an important reality. Financial power can accelerate transfers, but it cannot guarantee footballing stability or career progression. Some players will thrive in Saudi Arabia, extending their careers and performing at a high level, while others may find that the move disrupts their rhythm, confidence, or long-term trajectory.
Maldini, Costa Curta, and Chiellini. And now they've got Brazilians, a nation of people who topic. Luis Felipe's reputation was sky high.
As the league continues to grow, its true success will depend not just on attracting famous names, but on creating an environment where players, whether stars or rising talents, can maintain performance levels over multiple seasons. Because in modern football, sustainability matters just as much as headline-grabbing signings.
A few years ago, he was a mainstay at Lazio as they finished 5th in the 2021-22 season, and the following season, Brentford. There have been several failed Saudi Pro League signings, but none of them funnier than Jordan Henderson, having done genuinely good work
Jordan Henderson's Saudi Pro League move became one of the most talked-about transfers of the entire project, not just because of football, but because of the expectations surrounding his reputation. At Liverpool, Henderson built an image as a leader, a professional, and someone who stood for strong social values. That's why his move created such a strong reaction globally. Fans weren't just judging the football decision, they were questioning the consistency of the message behind it.
a bizarre PR charm offensive, vomiting out incoherent platitudes about spreading the game of football around the world, and how his presence in Saudi Arabia could only be a positive thing in terms of bringing about change.
From a purely sporting perspective, the move also shows how quickly things can change in modern football. Within months, the project didn't work out, the contract ended, and Henderson returned to European football, trying to re-establish himself at the highest competitive level again. It's another reminder that financial opportunities can be attractive, but career momentum, competitive rhythm, and league visibility still play a massive role for players who want to remain part of national team plans and top-level competitions.
A job well done.
Well, my work is done here.
What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
Didn't I?
We see a similar story with players like Habib Diallo. In Europe, he was a reliable goalscorer with strong League One numbers. Yet after moving to Saudi Arabia, his productivity dropped significantly. Whether it's tactical adjustments, team instability, or simply the challenge of adapting to a completely different footballing environment, not every player finds the transition easy, even those who look perfectly suited on paper.
Last summer, Henderson was linked with a return to his boyhood club Sunderland following their return to the Premier League, but he ultimately penned a 2-year deal with Brentford.
These examples reinforce a bigger theme. The Saudi Pro League has created huge opportunities, but it has also become a high-risk move for many players. Some will thrive and extend their careers, while others may discover that stepping away from Europe at the wrong moment can slow their development or reduce their long-term impact at the elite level. And as the league continues to grow, players will increasingly have to weigh not only the financial rewards, but also the competitive consequences of that decision.
When you think of all the friends that we made along the way. Yes, it can. It is one of the single most catastrophic transfers, certainly at that time, more formidable Russian Premier League, and he is a quick and opportunistic striker who feeds upon defensive vulnerabilities, of which there are many in the kingdom's top flocks.
Another important example of how unpredictable the Saudi Pro League project can be is Ahmed Musa. On paper, his move looked perfect. He had pace, international experience, and a strong scoring record in Russia, so many expected him to thrive in a league where attacking players often find more space and opportunities. But football rarely follows predictions. Despite playing in a successful Al Nassr team, Musa struggled to make the same attacking impact, and within a few seasons his career trajectory slowed significantly, eventually leading him back to domestic football.
As they crashed back down to earth the following season, but he bagged 6 in 10 back on loan at CSKA Moscow, and he was probably Nigeria's standout player at the
This highlights something many players and fans sometimes underestimate. Moving leagues is not just about talent. Adaptation, tactical systems, team chemistry, and even timing in a player's career can dramatically influence whether a transfer becomes a success or a setback. A move that looks financially attractive in the short term can sometimes interrupt competitive rhythm at a crucial stage of a player's peak years.
In Saudi Arabia, who scored most of their goals. Wow, he's great. What a player. What a man. So clinical in front of goal. Always.
The situation becomes even more dramatic when we look at transfers like Hodas. At Celtic, he was one of the most exciting and productive attacking players, delivering goals, assists, and playing a key role in multiple trophy-winning campaigns. Expectations were huge when he moved to Saudi Arabia for a major fee, but squad registration limits, competition among foreign players, and inconsistent opportunities meant he never fully settled. Within a short period, he found himself moving again, and the transfer quickly turned into a financial and sporting loss for the club.
Gets the job done, and just 9 in 50 in the league. Musa, then, frequently provided his opponents with a stay of execution. Fans nicknamed him the Pardoner.
These cases underline the central theme we keep seeing. The Saudi Pro League has enormous financial strength, but long-term football success still depends on planning, squad balance, and the right environment for players to perform. Without those elements, even talented and proven footballers can struggle to replicate the level that once made them stand out in Europe.
A year after his arrival, for a reported €10 million to Ron. A chunky £16 million loss there then, before wages. If you factor in his supposed...
If there is one transfer that perfectly summarizes the risks of the Saudi Pro League spending boom, it has to be Neymar's move to Al Hilal. On paper, it looked like a global statement signing. One of the most recognizable footballers in the world joining a rapidly expanding league at the peak of its international marketing push. But in reality, injuries, limited appearances, and minimal on-field impact turned the deal into one of the lowest returns on investment we've ever seen in modern football.
26, Jota made a promising return at Paradise during the second half of last season, scoring 5 goals and making 2 assists in 16 appearances.
And this is the key lesson from all the examples we've discussed: Saint-Maximin, Luis Felipe, Henderson, Diallo, Musa, Hoda, and Neymar. Financial power can bring attention instantly, but football success still depends on availability, tactical fit, long-term planning, and competitive consistency. Without those factors, even world-class talent cannot guarantee results.
And Neymar's in particular was so calamitous that it simply has to take top spot. Probably the worst signing in the entire history of the sport. So
that doesn't mean the Saudi Pro League project has failed. Far from it. The league has already achieved massive global visibility, attracted elite players, and increased worldwide discussion about football's shifting economic landscape. But what these cases show is that the next phase of development will be crucial. Sustainable growth, smarter recruitment strategies, and building stable competitive environments will ultimately decide whether the league becomes a lasting football powerhouse or remains known mainly for headline-grabbing transfers.
Certainly in terms of return on investment, speaking, €735,000 for every minute that he spent on the pitch at Al Hilal. That's about 12,000.
Because in football, history doesn't remember the biggest contracts. It remembers the biggest performances. And as the Saudi Pro League continues evolving, the real challenge will be turning financial ambition into consistent footballing success over the long term.